Welcome to All Over the Map. Take chances and ask questions.
Open discussion on all topics. The driving force. Get her done. Laughter is medicine for the soul. It's a small world after all.
Third now, 3-3 game. Ilya Kovalchuk. He can pass the puck. Finds Andy Sutton. Ilya, what's your dad think about that?
Welcome Andy Sutton to All Over the Map. Andy is owner and CEO of Verbero Hockey and an ex-NHL hockey player who played close to 700 games in the National Hockey League before retiring. And listen intently as he shares his insights on business, family, and what really matters the most in life. Welcome, Suts, to All Over the Map. Really appreciate you coming on, brother.
Of course, man.
Before we get into some deeper, let's say, real life talk, I want to address the audience that you played close to 700 games in the National Hockey League. Let's hear about your journey that ultimately led you to where you are in the infinite now.
Well, it's been a hell of a journey for sure. I mean, it's you and I have talked about it offline, but it's all sliding doors. You know, it really is. You know, where one decision led to a very different result than another, and certainly I had a myriad of those occasions in my life. And I wouldn't even know where to start with it, because it started early for me and never really ended until the end, where I had all of these occasions where they were looking back on it like very different end results that could have come from the event. And then just a mindset at certain point in times where I almost created that event for myself. Right, to where I was like, this isn't working like this. I'm gonna do this the opposite way because I'm either not happy or B, it's just not. I can tell it's not working. So I'm gonna do this my way. I'm gonna own this. Right. So at least if it fails or the perception of failure occurs, at least it's happened at my own hand. Right. And so much of that was probably the thing that I needed to figure out the most throughout my career, because I think that sense of identity. Having a sense of identity and a faithfulness in that identity is the thing that carries you through life. And it's so challenging, especially when you oscillate in a space where you're part and parcel to the energy levels of others around you to a high degree, vis-a-vis a team, right? When you're on a team and you're dealing with coaches and fans and managers and all of your teammates and all of the individual nuances within that, frequencies from a certain shift or a period or a game or a collection of games or a month of games. And then where you're really, it's all hyper fixated on and has a relative hyper focus. A lot of times I feel like, you kind of don't have as much control as you might like to have in that process. And that's challenging.
It's a hell of a challenge, which leads into what I was going to ask you next, is that when you retired from hockey, did you have an identity crisis?
Well, it's, and looking back on it, right. Like, and my wife says this to me all the time. She's like, and I fundamentally believe this. Every person is doing the very best they can for where they are that given moment or that day. And I believe fundamentally, if you're an evolutionist, that you understand the fundamentals that we're all trying to do better, or maybe, or the perception of better. And so with that regard, I think that everything that I've done to this point has gotten me to this point, good, bad, or otherwise. And I think it's always been like steps forward, even though at times, oftentimes in the perception of peril of it, you feel like you're going backwards. And sometimes you need to go backwards metaphorically to be going forwards because there's a rework. And that was the thing that was the most challenging for me. I have a lot of to say about this because I know how many guys struggle with it and I deal with it all the time. A lot of guys that I've brought on with Verbero are struggling with it. A lot of ex-teammates are struggling with it. I've lost a lot of friends because of this struggle. The identity crisis that, especially when you play, I think at the highest level for a long time, there's a lot of things that are insulated in that make it very difficult to thrive in the real world. Because like I said earlier, definition of self by, like, from a shift or a period or a game, like on these micro levels. You don't really have to judge yourself that way, and there's nobody else really watching in the real world. So once you realize that, I think the initial thing that the players do is like, oh wow, no one's watching, now I can just go do whatever I want. So I'm eating 4 burgers a week and drinking 50 IPAs and and smoking a lot of dope and like stuff that wasn't characteristic for me, right? And then you start to exacerbate the ranges that you're living in, right? The downward spiral goes deeper down, and then the upward. So you're creating this it's almost like 2 cliffs edges, and then you're constantly, you're oscillating in this deep, these deep fluctuations, and that is not a healthy place to live in. And the fact of the matter that you don't have something tangible each day to get up and plow your intensity into, because we're gladiators. I mean, you call it what you want. Like, we're there living on the edge. Lions are jumping out of the ground. There's guys trying to kill us with arrows, and there's this guy over here on a chariot trying to stab us with a giant sword. I mean, that's what hockey is like in a lot of regards, right? I mean, so you're on this, like, I don't know, you're almost like PTSD when you're done playing. And then on top of it, like, you don't have that level of intensity. So in a lot of ways, I think athletes create it for themselves. I think we do it with our own mind. We create almost like these events so that we can feel like we're accomplishing something. All the while, you're really kind of lost, right?
Yeah.
So it isn't until you can start to have a definition that feels maybe as meaningful as what you thought your hockey career meant to you, that you really start to get the tools to succeed, to have something consistent, or consistent things to start to grow through, and then to be able to perceive your new identity and be able to, like what we talked about having this sense of identity and having a faithfulness in it. You have to spend the time and do the work to develop the new identity that you can be faithful in. And that is something that I don't think very many people are taught. And I don't think anybody is helping these athletes with this.
Yeah. Well, we talked even about emotional intelligence being taught in the schools, which I think would be of utmost paramount, especially in these times where these kids are going to school or having to do classes over Zoom now or whatever the heck they got to do. I wish I was taught a little bit more about how to process my emotions when I was a kid. And a lot of these guys too, it's tough for them to compartmentalize the fact that who they are and what they did are 2 separate entities. There's, Bob Goodall, the hockey player, and then there's Bob Goodall, the guy that shovels snow at 7 a.m. so his wife can pull out and go work at the coffee shop. There's always 2 sides to the spectrum. So I'm glad that we elaborated on that. So you're the owner and CEO of Verbero Hockey. Let's hear all about that and how important it is to have a definite purpose in life.
Well, and even that is a bunch of sliding doors, because while I was still playing, I feel like in the 15-year career, the first, say, 12 years, I wasn't really thinking about life after as much as I should have. And in retrospect, I should have spent way more time, reading every book about business, understanding, global economies, studying entrepreneurialism, a million other things. And all the while you're sitting around, watching Dumb and Dumber for the 50th time, because you're just killing time on the bus or whatever. Yeah, it's an amazing movie, but that's besides the point.
If you're ever down, watch that.
Yeah, I know. So in the, about 3 years before I retired, I studied engineering at school. So I started developing some intellectual property in the protective space. I missed more games due to injury than any player over the 15 years I was in the NHL. I had 14 surgeries over a 16-year span, countless fractures. I mean, I was in an air cast as much as I was in a dress shoe. Just the nature of the way I played, I think, and maybe just I don't know if it was just like paper mache or I was putting broken pieces back together, whatever it was, but all roads lead to Rome. So I started developing this intellectual property with the hope that I can do something of meaning in that space to make the game better, to make it more protective, to make guys be able to perform better. I started trying to license that intellectual property, was working with brands like Easton and CCM. I got very far down the road with Easton right around the same time they got acquired by Bauer, and they essentially squashed the project and the program. So at the time, again, this moment where you're just like, oh my goodness, like 3 years of my life, and this was way downstream, and this was going to be the place where I was going to invest my time. And then feeling lost a little bit again at that time. And then I went on and did a few other things that were relatively immaterial, despite, pouring my passion into them. And I woke up one morning and I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to go work with my friend Chris Malky. So Chris is a guy that I had talked to a few times about some of the intellectual property. Chris founded both Hockey Giant and Hockey Monkey here in the U.S. and he was on his third go around, and it was all about own brands. And Chris and I had a great rapport right out of the gates. So I called Chris that very day. I said, Chris, I want to come and work with you. And he said, come on down, we'll figure something out. So I went down. I ended up being the president of that company for almost 4 years. During my time there, I really got a chance to dive into every facet of business. I understood, manufacturing, sourcing, production, product development, marketing, sales, e-commerce. I mean, Chris opened the door for me, and I dove all the way in. I amassed as much information as I could about everything. While I was there were some acquisitions that took place while I was working with that company. We picked up First Star, which was formerly a Canadian apparel brand. I bought 50% of that company and shared in the growth of that with Chris's business. And then right around the time COVID hit, and we'd acquired the Verbero brand while I was there as well. So I got to work on Verbero for a year and a half. Got to really understand that company. And then COVID hit, and I had lent the company some money, and I had the First Star interests, and I worked a deal out with Chris whereby I was going to leave First Star behind, leave some gains behind, and I was going to take the Verbero brand and take it outside and run it as a standalone, because I had all kinds of aspirations, spending all this time playing the game, all this time working in the game now to really run things in a way that I think makes sense for where the market is today and where the average consumer, how they assess quality and commodities and price point and branding and all the things I really wanted to bring to the table. So Verbero was acquired by me in December. And I literally took everything that is the best of everything I've ever known about the game, working in it through my IP development years, through playing in the game, and have cast this into the new Verbero. So we are as progressive a sports brand as I think there is in the world. We did a lot of things that were fundamentally different, and the tagline for Verbero is "Be Different." It started with everything. I mean, we took the best of the best for product, improved them, enhanced them. We brought in the lightest stick ever brought to market, 350 grams. We supported with a private label apparel partner in the U.S. and several factories that I got into very deep relationships with internationally that make all of our apparel, our game wear, our travel accessories, all of our carry accessories. They do all of our custom gloves, all of our custom pants, all those things over there. So then that sort of led to the next thing, and this is where I had finally found a medium to dive all the way in. Use my intensity, use my intellect. My best friend is an elite level software programmer. I went to Donnie and I said, Donnie, I want to create the first automated team store generation system in sport. He said, well, what do you want to do? So I show him all the products. I tell him how I want it to interface, and Donnie writes code for Verbero so that we can essentially turn on team stores on demand. So all of the products across the entire mix of Verbero, we can essentially turn a team store on within a matter of a day for these teams that we onboard. So that, in conjunction with literally obliterating the status quo for reps and sales, we established a territorialist system. So we allow our reps to sell anywhere to anybody. We tripled the industry standard commission rate. We also allow our reps to build their own sub-rep forces. So our reps are now allowed to work with their best friends and colleagues, and they earn on the sales of all the guys they bring in underneath them. So we're seeing this now. These guys are categorically and territorially taken a stranglehold on certain communities. There's other guys. We have one rep that's got almost 30 reps, sub-reps underneath him, and his are all over the world. So he's spreading out all over the world. And we hook these team stores, all of the bulk sales, individual sales. We give them individual coupons and QR codes and team order form links that embed all of their information. We took all of that and we plugged in an affiliate software program that essentially allows all of our reps and affiliates to look on their dashboard, track and trace sales in real time, and then all of the commissions are auto distributed on the first of the month. So we literally took all of this, wrapped it up in one nice, tight little bundle full of like tens of thousands of lines of code, and have launched and debuted this thing successfully. And we're working on some really high level opportunities right now and partnerships right now. To coincide with some other partnerships that we've brought in, we partnered up with a head protection company called Cav. So Cav helmets are the most incredible thing that anybody's ever going to see. And unfortunately, people don't know. Fortunately, I guess for us, not enough people know about them to this point. But we're pushing the Cav helmet to be our exclusive helmet provider. All 3D printed, full custom. They print these things in one straight shot over a 36-hour period. It's one of the most incredible things you'll ever see in your lifetime, and the most protective helmet, hands down, in the industry. We're so honored to have that. And the stuff just keeps coming, some really amazing league-wide partnerships, association-wide partnerships. We have pretty much every category with the exception of sticks for the upcoming 3-on-3 professional league, 3 Ice, that's debuting in June. So a lot of really cool things happening with Verbero, and we couldn't be happier to be growing through a time when everybody else is shrinking and retracting.
Well, that's something you should be very extremely proud of. So for anybody out there that's listening, our audience, please check out Verbero Hockey. It's amazing. I've checked out all your stuff. I actually want one of those helmets to wear every day wherever I go. There's a lot of ice on the road, and I don't need to be banging my head and getting another concussion. So if you can get one of those off to me on tomorrow, first thing, FedEx, I'll definitely wear a pink one. I'm kidding, but no, awesome products, man. And your website is just so professional, and a lot of specialized knowledge has been put into it. You can tell. It's awesome.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So do you believe that whatever we focus on expands, and whatever we think about, we bring about?
Yeah, I definitely do. I for one way or another, in general, and I think you and I have talked about this offline. I think you feel the same way. Like I really don't see a lot of resistance in things. I don't choose to focus on that predominantly. And I think from that regard, everything is about intention. I think applying intention in your life is the most important thing that we can do. Creating the environment that you see, and what you see, I believe you can create for yourself. And I think energetically, the things that are also meant for you come your way through those intentions and the power of those intentions. And the things that don't likely are not meant for us in the first place. So in a way, like setting these intentions and being able to flow within them, to be malleable, to be able to turn and adjust in a way that doesn't leave you defeated, but to constantly be reestablishing these new intentions on a daily basis is an imperative skill set. And I think that the perpetual nature of that in the end, and the slogan, all roads lead to Rome, I do believe that they do. I really do. I think that in the end, if you can stick to these things and these understandings and the faithfulness in it, everything that you want in your life, you can achieve.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
For sure. There's no doubt about it.
So let's talk mindset in Sutsy's life.
Well, it's I
think he's dead.
It's always a moving target, right? And I don't mean to make it sound like it's a simple thing. It's being able to see the light in the dark. That's part of it, and understanding that that's part of the process for everybody, right? And I forget, my wife told me a quote, and I didn't remember it verbatim, but it's something about life is a shipwreck. And I think Voltaire said it, life is a shipwreck. Just make sure you don't forget to dance in the lifeboat. And I think that's a very true statement for most everybody. We all deal with stuff, and Ryan, we talked about this offline. I lost a sister to addiction. I have a mother who's had mental health issues her whole life. Life life is not easy for anybody. Everybody has their things, and that's another thing that my wife has taught me. When you look at anybody, and we're quick to critique or judge our perception of somebody else's action or actions. That's on us, because that we don't know what that person is dealing with. We don't know where they're vibrating, and it's such a difficult thing to manage, I think, especially for people that take on energies around them.
Yeah.
And I'm that way. So for me, it's like it's constantly a moving target. I'm definitely becoming more self-aware to being able to move to places where I can restore energy, or sensating when maybe my energy levels are going down, and not to put myself in the wrong position, because I like to convey energy. If I'm not delivering passion and energy in my life, it feels like I'm in the wrong spot, or I've run out of gas and I need to fill up. I need to like put the car in, give it a wax. I need to wait till the next sunny day to take it out, type of thing. Whereas for so long it was just go, 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 go. And I think that just sets you up. That sets you up for long-term failure, and it's not as sustainable as being able to recognize in oneself the time when we need to restore, and then how we need to restore, and then giving ourselves space and permission to do so.
100%. Yeah. So what brings you the most joy and fulfillment in your life?
Well, I wouldn't say it's one thing. I had this conversation with my wife this morning at breakfast. For me, it's everything. It all connects. It's like if I'm not seeing in her eyes what the way I might perceive her feeling about me as a husband, me as a father, me as a provider, it makes me feel differently about my work. It makes me feel differently about, I love to fly fish. I love to play golf. It makes me feel differently about doing those actions. I'm not looking to depart presence, to vacate, to do something else as a distraction away from like what is needed in my life. So I am a husband. I am a father. I'm a provider. I'm a businessman. I'm a son. I'm a friend, right? I'm a lot of things. So I need to be able to constantly be reassessing, where to apply myself, because I tend to be needed in a lot of places, I think, because of the energy that I bring to certain things. And I have to be constantly evaluating that, and be able to understand that first and foremost, I've got to radiate outward from my home environment. So, we talked about this before we came on air. My son, he was almost 4, all he wants to do is emulate dad, right, wrong, or otherwise. He's watching everything, right? So it's the ultimate mirror. And then on top of that, I'm more thoughtful about how I speak, how I'm even vibrating when I'm in his company, because I know that he's, without non-verbally, he's picking up on all of this stuff, and he's learning how to metabolize the world through my actions in so many ways. And that for me is the place where it all centers, and then it has to radiate out. So like, work has been incredibly busy lately. I moved my family cross country. We left Southern California, where my wife was born and raised and lived there, the majority of her life. We moved just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, right? So we don't know anybody here, virtually know anybody. So we've really like moved the entire infrastructure. It's been a really challenging, 4 to 8 weeks, whatever it's been. And we're, now we're in our new home, and we're renovating, and there's paper all over the floor and paint everywhere and workers. And like, we're living in a time of transition. And, all the while, work doesn't stop, needs don't stop, all these things. And it's a challenge, right? To be able to block out the background noise, and then also be able to block it out in a way that allows us to be like omnipresent in the home environment, right? To give my son, my love, my light, my energy, my joy, my passion, my creativity, and same thing to my wife, and be able to invest in that enough to where the other stuff just feels like I don't know, like an accessory in a way, but it's a dance. It's all a delicate dance for everybody for sure.
At 6'6", how's that dancing working out for you?
Oh yeah, I actually have I'm incredibly fleet of foot. I'll tell you, I got a
Flamenco
couple. I can do it all. I've got my own way that
or the moonwalk?
as long if I'm in the flow, I can move. Just yeah.
Nice. So, do you believe that the greatest forces are intangible and unseen?
Well, I believe it's all inside of us. I do believe there's a lot that is out of our control, but even the perception of that is an internal dialogue. So I think everything is about what we tell ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And we see it. People can go all into a cult that maybe the masses think is absolutely crazy and kill themselves in honor of the cult leader, right? And people can do incredible things in their minds, right? We can believe anything. So with that said, I think the emphasis comes back to the self. If people are able to go to that end to kill themselves for a belief, we should be able to invest equally in our daily life, in our work, in our family, in our health and wellness. Whatever the thing is, whatever the pillars are for you, are the things that, and it's back to intention again. Like it comes back to the self. You have to dictate these stories for yourself, and you have to hold yourself responsible to hold that course of action. That's it. At the end, there's nothing else to it, right? Because if everybody, especially right now, had that internal focus, that's not selfish. There's a difference between selfish and self-centered. It's self-centered, but at the same point in time, it has a direct effect on our vibrational frequency, which allows us to then bring light to others around us. So that's the byproduct of self-care and understanding self, and then self-governance as it pertains to healthy pillars of your existence. In my opinion.
Good opinion.
I'm glad.
Which kind of led into the next question I was going to ask is, what are your thoughts on the art of deliberate intention?
Well, I mean, I think we just touched on it. I mean, it is an art.
Yeah.
Let's say that. I mean, it's a lifelong pursuit. You mean, and if you look at, like, I don't know, you look at Monet and the way that he painted water lilies until the day he died, and how differently they looked over the course of time, right? And even though he was painting, outward facing, maybe the same view, the view was changing, right, in him. Yet he felt compelled to share that, as torturous as that may have even been for him. And I feel like that is probably very symbolic for all of us. There's a constant readjustment that needs to take place, and that's not an easy process. The easy thing to do is to go on to the next thing that's going to distract you from caretaking for your own life and your own experience. That's the next thing that most people do. And it is a distraction, and work distracts us, and family life is often distracting. And there's just so many distractions. We've got all the stuff on our smartphones, and all the reality shows, and all the Netflix, and there are so many distractions. But honestly, how many of us are really spending equal parts of time assessing the quality of our experience?
Absolutely.
Right? The total quality of our experience. How many of us are really able to look at that and disseminate that, all these things, these things, especially when they become habitual?
Yeah.
Because we can ingrain good habits and bad habits just about as quickly into our lives, to the extent that our brain doesn't know the difference, right? And then once they're rooted, it's very challenging, without a complete awareness for what it's touching and everything it's touching in around it, to circumnavigate that and then reestablish new parameters for success.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so important to, watch the power of our words. What we send out with our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions is literally creating our reality in the now. It's like, if you're feeling like shit right now, the way you feel equals your point of attraction. So if you're vibrating at a lower frequency, next thing you know, you get a phone call, and you pick up, look who's calling you. Do you want to answer that phone call or not? You know what I mean?
Well, you probably don't, because if you've
Frequency,
been
I get
through it
some
long
pretty
enough,
weird
you
phone calls.
yeah, for sure. And you know what's coming. If you've been around it long enough, you know exactly what's coming. You know, that rains it pours is definitely a real deal event.
For sure. So, yeah, I was going to say, how important is it to you to trust your intuitive faculties and obviously protect your own energy from being depleted?
For me, it's the most imperative thing in my life now. It's the only thing I think about.
Yeah.
I assess everything that's coming forth with that at the forefront. Okay, what is it? What does this affect? How does this truly make me feel? How does this dovetail? I love the expression dovetail. How does this dovetail in my life? Because I'm a firm believer that when I have it right, work, recreation, family, friendship, being a son, I feel like it all intersects and it's flowing together. There's a for me, there's a flow to it when it's flowing. And I very quickly now realize when I'm like cast into the rapids, or I'm trying to swim upstream, or I'm caught in a back eddy. Like for me, it's always about the river. I always draw back to the river as a comparison for where I'm feeling in my life. And like the river of well-being, there's a lot written about the river of well-being. One bank is control, the other bank is chaos. You want to stay in the middle, but we have to be realistic, right? A river isn't most typical river anyways isn't the same. It isn't the same all the way through. It has turbulent sections, it has shallow water sections, there's rocks, there's things you got to avoid, there's deep slow pools where that's maybe that's a nice place to be. Yeah. Or maybe like we're looking at the rapids ahead and we're not even enjoying this like leisurely float through this like section that's so still, and then we can't hear the birds, we don't see the deer on the side, we're not present, right? So for me it always doubles back to that. So it's I see my life now more so that way than anything else. And then it's a matter of constant readjustment. It's not easy, but we have to feel these events in real time. And that's back to, again, like being present in one's own life and making sure we set up an environment where there's space to be able to perceive those events. Right. Because if we're constantly like barely keeping our head above water, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss the thing that comes that's probably meant for us. And I believe these things are always coming. They're always coming. Interactions, different people you can meet that are supposed to be meaningful in our lives. I believe they're always coming. It's not like, oh, this one thing happens, so they're always coming, these things. And the openness that we're meant to have, you just watch a child. Yeah. Watch a child that hasn't been governed by helicopter parents who like make their children fearful of strangers. Watch how they interact. Watch how open they are. Watch how much they perceive energy. Watch how they lead with a smile. They're open to every possible receptor is open to energy and to learning.
Yeah, they haven't been engulfed by toxic paradigms that have been infused into their makeup, and it's like that little girl maybe singing in the shower. She could be the next Whitney Houston or whatever, but her mom tells her to shut up because she sounds like crap. Next thing you know, that girl never sings again.
That's right.
And I think everything that we actually ever truly desire in life is actually downstream. We don't have to be paddle, keep going up. It's down and going with the flow. And then just like the rocks, the flow is going to be going in and around the rocks, and then you're having to deviate and then reconfigurate and whatnot. And so literally all these synchronicities are leading to one synchronicity until they lead into another, then that moment into this moment, into this moment, into this moment. So really at the end of the day, a lot of it is just calming yourself down, for crying out loud. Yeah. But right now it's tough for a lot of people because, some people's awareness is different than others, which is okay. We're all in our own phase of our own evolution, which is kind of a cool thing because you get to see people grow. So I was going to say, what does true friendship mean to you?
Wow, that is an amazing question. I mean, I've never been asked that before. I think it means to always be honest, and to be always be available, unless it becomes so toxic that it's to the detriment of self. Like consistent detriment of self at the expense of friendship is not true friendship, because a true friend wouldn't put you in that consistent environment. But I think honesty is everything. I think if to have that level of friendship, we have to be able to share an honesty that comes from a place of love and a reception to that honesty, because of the respect that you have for one another. I think that's the holy grail of friendship. If you can have that level of intimacy and constantly respect the other's position, direction, or otherwise, and then if there is someone that's able to give you some suggestions as a barometer for maybe or advice, whatever you want to call it, and to be able to receive that with an openness and loving arms, is a setup for long-term success, I would say.
Absolutely. That's the gift for sure. So, during this so-called great disconnect, never have we been so connected yet so disconnected at the same time. What's your message to the people of the world?
Well,
Hold on for
I would
dear
say
life.
no. I would say that in times like this, when there's so much uncertainty around us, and we have such a lack of control, right? We really do. It's very, very, very challenging for us to divide our experience by the infrastructures around us, because they're constantly being changed on us, right? So the infrastructure, and the infrastructure, especially down here in the US, has never been more volatile, polarizing, erratic, and maybe even a little bit sick and twisted. A lot of dishonor, dishonesty. So it's created a lot of uncertainty in people, and I think that's also attached to us in a way that's been very personal, because we've lost jobs, we haven't been able to care for ourselves in the same way, we haven't been able to care for family the same way. Our definition of self has been exposed, and I think that in general we have to use this opportunity, because we may never get it again. When the world turns back on and life gets really busy again, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna get really busy again. We'll be busier with our jobs and the important things that we always think we're to do, right? But yet, and it's the same thing as the river of well-being. We're in this pool right now and I don't think it's rapids, because I think if there's less going on, like so you have to work from home, so maybe you are making less, and maybe you can't do anything about it. Maybe you are forced to be around the people you chose to live with in the first place, your wife, and you've got kids or whatever it is. Maybe the time now is to become like hyper focused on the control environment, the home front, your relationship with your spouse, or maybe spending more time like connecting with your father, because like, how's your dad feeling about this? Like, I know my dad in his 70s, it doesn't feel great. I haven't seen my father now since February, right? So I'm coming up on a year of not seeing my dad, right? So and who knows how many years we have left, right? So I think the answer, and it's always the same in general, the answer is always like to go into the self, and then I think it is to radiate outwards.
Yep.
To the things that mean the most to you, and to invest that time so that core infrastructure is rock solid. It's the only way that we can get through it for the duration of our lives. You can't go. You want to go far, right? Or you want to go fast, go alone, right? You want to go the distance. You've got to do that with people. You got to do that with the support system around you, and that doesn't happen unless you invest, first and foremost in your nucleus. You've got to, and we have the time now. Like there is time. You can't go sit. I couldn't go sit at Starbucks this morning and work. It's closed. The seats are shut down, right? So that's the universe telling me that's not where I'm even meant to be. I should be sitting at home, and maybe because hockey's shutting down everywhere, and yet I'm pushing so hard and spending time away from my family. Maybe for me, it means like, hey, you should be home on a Sunday making your kid pancakes. You know what I mean? Instead of like worrying about the work that you've got to do on a Sunday morning. I don't know what the answer is. It's so interpersonal, but I do think that we need to utilize this opportunity to reflect and to really redefine maybe the things that are most meaningful to us in our life, and maybe define for the first time maybe what some things prior meant all along that we never thought about. That was just the next thing we were going to do, the next place we were going to go, or we did this because whatever the reason was. Take the time and apply the definition to it, and then figure out, one way or the other, who and what is worth investing in the most.
Yeah.
And then spend the extra time, not worrying and being anxious about the things that we have absolutely no idea about and the things we can't control. Focus the time on caretaking for these things that are in and around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's definitely teaching us. It's giving us the opportunity to really reframe the way we think about everything, especially even about ourselves, about our true inner being. And you talk about that, we radiate that which we are. So if we're in a state of anger or, whatever, if we're in a state of that well-being that we talk about, which I like to be in most of the time, I think we all do. I wish that for everybody. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. This is maybe a time for a lot of self-introspection and, and gratitude, being grateful for what you do have. So many people, they say, oh, I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful, but like, do they really mean it? And just saying thank you when you hit the floor in the morning, when you wait, when you're out, even though I woke up at 1:30 a.m., was I really happy about it? I should be, but my mind's going, holy Christ, it's 1:30 in the morning, but really I should be saying thank you. I'm breathing, and I got the opportunity to talk to Andy Sutton today.
Well, and maybe you aren't that tired. Maybe you're not meant to sleep, and maybe you've got better things to do. Maybe there's a reason why you're up. And I love, because having an almost 4-year-old who's up and hits the ground running. Every morning between 6 and 6:30. It's that time when I am up, I'm thankful for it. It's like one of the only times I get to enjoy my house in peace and quiet. And it's a time when I really do sit back and I really reflect. It also gives me an opportunity to get ahead of some work that's in place. So then when he gets up at 6:30, I can sit down with him on the floor and build yoga, build some Legos with him, or do yoga with him. Or nice. Versus like, if I get up and I hit the ground running with him and then I've got work stuff right away, it's a very different morning and it's a very different energy level to start the day with. So I don't know, everything is a two-sided coin. It really is. We have, I fall victim to it too. Like your outlook is everything. We have a responsibility, and we have complete control over our outlook. And it's across a wide range, as much as a flip of a coin. And then it's really just a mindset. I mean, we have to work to constantly recategorize things and place value on them, especially if we're truthfully present. Because if in your example, if you get yanked out of a sleep in the middle of the night, why? Like, what's the reason for it? Maybe you went to bed too early. Maybe you didn't need that much sleep. Yeah. So maybe you're meant to be up because I don't know, like, I don't know why, like maybe there's a reason for it, or maybe
I don't know. I saw the sunrise and it was beautiful. So
yeah, good. Well, that's a great thing. We don't see that enough. It is beautiful for sure.
Yeah. So how do we follow Verbero and Andy Sutton's journey? I know we're going to leave a link at the on all our podcast mediums and whatnot, and YouTube and whatever. So you can click and we can see everything that's available on there. But so how do we follow Verbero and Andy Sutton's journey moving forward?
Well, my personal journey may or may not be that easy to follow. I'm not one to broadcast it. I don't really do that much. But through Verbero, and I spend a lot of time in here. I spend a lot of time, connecting with people, and we put out a lot of content through that. But Verbero.com, and Verbero is literally Latin and means to basically to crush things. I mean, it's awesome. Literally what it means. And our tagline is be different, and we're going to be different in every way. Verbero.com is where you can find the website. We're on all the major social media channels. I have people that do that for me, thank goodness, and they do an amazing job. But people are going to find out about us because we're really pushing in a way that's unique, and it's already happening, and word is spreading because of the way we're growing our rep force too. Essentially anyone can sell with us. Everybody, it's all about relationships, it's all about connection.
100%.
And I realize that it's not about and no disrespect to the guy that's been selling for a major brand for a long time. He's got great value for those brands and the way that they do that. But for us and for me, it was all about connection, and a lot like the way social media has grown. That's the way I want our sales infrastructure to be. I want people who want to connect with people that they share a love of hockey with. And then to be like, hey, we've got a real opportunity here to like have a great side gig or full-time gig. You can go as crazy as you want. Build 1,000 reps under you. I will not stop you. And I will pay you on every single one of them that you want to bring underneath you. I want to work with people that are ambitious. I want to work with people that are relentless and connected. And then beyond that, one of my biggest responsibilities at Verbero is to spread the word of what we are, how we're different, talking about product, talking about different opportunities we have, different partnerships, equipping the people that are out transacting on behalf of the brand. I want to inspire you. I want you to feel like you want to do this and you want to be part of this. And I believe that we've got a program that is that. The program that we've built is completely unique. The commission structure is great. People can make a lot of money selling with us. And beyond that, they can work with all of their closest friends and colleagues, and they can really create a business for themselves. What an opportunity, right? And I want to extend that to people for sure. And I want to extend that to people that really that feel that, and those are the people I want to work with, people that feel inspired to connect with us.
And have that passion that you were talking about. That's, ignite the fire within, that's for sure. I mean, I've taken a look at all your stuff online there. I mean, the products are just, that you offer are incredible and the price points. It's the price points they're unbeatable. And I mean, if I was a kid or whatever, if I was still playing, hook me up. I'd be well. I mean, it's a damn good looking brand. Not good Ryan, just good looking, but high function. I mean, it's right up there, right with the top. It's proven. Your commercials that you have too are very well done, by the way.
Thank you. And we feel that way. We're really proud of it, and the reason we're able to keep our prices so low, and we call it player direct. We're player direct pricing to everybody. Yeah. We're not trying to sell through wholesale. And that's, the model is broken. It's been broken for a long time. The top tier brands mark their prices up so much because they have to support wholesale business, right? And then what they do, and people need to understand this, they stuff product minimums down the throats of the retailers, right? And then they hold them hostage by giving them really long terms on the repayment. All the while, then they stuff the next product line down their throat. The retailers can never get out from under the debt. And the brand themselves, with their bonuses for all their CEOs and the massively inflated prices that they carry, that's the customer paying for that. You're paying for an infrastructure that supports this type of business. You're not buying in a way that is a reward to you, because I worked in manufacturing sourcing. The difference between a $1,200 skate and a $100 skate at retail is $50 at manufacturing level. So why should the end customer have to pay $1,100 more if the brand spends $50? It makes no sense. No. So we put a fair margin just enough so we can stay in business, but it's really predicated on the fact that I want performance and innovation to exist in the same sentence as affordability, because they shouldn't have to be two ways of doing things where like you can afford this and because you make this kind of money and you're getting this skate, and this guy over here who loves the game as much as you, he can't get a product that's top tier. I want this to be accessible. I want this to be a brand that is known for hockey. I don't care if it's street hockey. I don't care if it's roller hockey, ice hockey. Verbero is hockey. Yeah. And Verbero is grassroots. And we know that over time, this messaging is going to reign supreme. These brands have lost their voice. They don't have a voice in the game. I'm going to bring a voice back to it, a face back to it, and a passion behind it that is going to incite people to want to be part of the Verbero uprising. Mercury Rising is our statement. Our product line is Mercury. Mercury is rising, and we are going to be unstoppable. There's no doubt about it.
That's awesome. Burning desire. You got it.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, Andy, that's a wrap. And I'd love to have you on again. We got like business 101, had some fun. And I really appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule. And we'll be talking very soon. Please feel free to follow us on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, you name it. And feel free to leave a review. And that's about it. So thank you for being on All Over the Map.